Stop seeking and start shining. Welcome to a 22-minute bite-sized experiential session created to activate and empower your soul's unique purpose, which is not a destination, but it's a magical daily odyssey. Your moment to shine is here, and I'm your host, Julie Suen. Aloha, beautiful souls. Today, I am so honored to have my friend, a sister, Lisa Fraley, on the show with me. And, this bubbling excitement inside of me is very unique today. It's probably because we're both, wait for it, dun dun dun, lawyers, attorneys, sharks in disguise. All right, let me get to introducing my guest, Lisa. So she is a legal coach, attorney, holistic lawyer, best-selling author, and a speaker. And I'm so honored to have one of her books here called Easy Legal Steps. And it's a guide for entrepreneurs and small business owners. And it's easy legal steps that are also good for your soul. 7 steps to go from stuck and scared of the law to confident and empowered. We love empowerment here. So,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have anything to add to my bio just now?
You did that beautifully. I don't have anything to add other than the fact that I love that when we met each other, we saw and recognized 2 lawyers who understood each other, because we have come from a place where we understand the practical side of law, but also the spiritual side or the use of law for helping to support with boundaries and spiritual boundaries and energetic boundaries and business boundaries. So what I think makes us both unique, Julie, is that we have a broader sense of the law than most people, and that's surprising to people. But I think that's also what makes us unique, and also what helps us to bring a message that the law can be a helpful tool and not necessarily a scary, negative tool in people's lives.
Yeah, and it's pretty unique because it's a unique perspective, because law tends to be something that people see as very traditional, very structured. If there were any old paradigm kind of upholding system in our, say, matrix, I mean, law would be one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
And here we are in a New Age spirituality podcast about activating your soul purpose. And what I feel like we can bring to listeners on this episode is activating the ability and the courage to show up regardless of what occupation or more traditional roles, if you will, that you may be playing in your life. You can show up as your soul's light, regardless of these labels that we've identified ourselves. And actually, right before this call, Lisa said something that really caught my attention, and I thought that was so empowering. And it's, if we were to shift an industry, a very ideal position to do that would be from within, right? One of the things that I truly believe in is for us to create a new reality externally, we have to shift our own beliefs and the dimensions that we're operating from within. And likened to an industry or an occupation that we're in, right now, our world is very much still operating under certain systems, humanity as a whole, of course. And of course, when we get to a certain stage where maybe the majority of us are, say, operating at 5th dimensional and above, well, maybe these structures wouldn't have to be in place. But from now to that transition, there's still lawyers, there are still banks, there's still finance systems, right?
Well,
What can we do with our life and professional experiences to execute these shifts from
mhm.
within?
I love that we're talking about this because it's, I think, like you do, Julie, that we can address things from both inside the structure or from outside of the structure. And I think that on an individual level, certainly we can use our consciousness to try to affect the whole entire structure on one level. Absolutely. And on a day-to-day basis, I think that we can try to affect the structure from the inside, being part of the structure. So for example, in my business, I coined the term holistic lawyer about 10 years ago to call myself that. And my brand is called Legal Love, which people will say to me, isn't that an oxymoron? Like, can those two things coexist at the same time? But the reason why I wanted to reflect that is because I do think you can bring love into the law. I don't think you have to throw the whole legal system out with the bathwater. I think you can bring love into the law and help people see the positive, sort of the more feminine side inside the structure of law, and help and support them in ways where they feel heard and supported and cared for. Because most lawyers do come from a place of wanting to defend or protect or honor their clients, and their heart is in the right place. But the profession can be so adversarial that we don't often see the hearts of the lawyers that went into law school with big hearts to change the world and make the world a better place and change laws and stand up for people who don't have a voice. And there's so many good reasons why people go into law, but they come out of law not always expressing those values. And so I think on our own individual basis, and you can speak to your own profession and career, but for me, having come from a big law firm where there was excellent training, but not enough room to show love and the more feminine side, I had to extract myself from that environment and create my own law firm where I had more room to be able to help people in a more loving way. So I'm still within the system of law, the structure of law, but coming at it from a different angle, a more heartfelt angle. And I think that we each can do that in our own professions to the extent that we have room to show up in a more and more loving way, no matter what you do in your profession, or show up in your higher values. Your higher self can show up even if the rest of the environment around you isn't quite there yet.
Absolutely. I believe that bringing love into everything we do, that's going to change the world. That's what's going to create the shifts and paradigms that we want to see. Personally, I'm an estate planning attorney, and the tagline for my company is actually estate planning starts with love, because that's what I truly believe in. And I inject that approach into every client that I work with. It's about creating possibilities and, a person's legacy, this money passing down, their family, the loved ones. How are they going to use it? How can we have that gift pass on in the most infinite and expansive manner? That's what I'm about.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I'm sure your clients can feel the love that you share with them when they're talking about something so personal as their own income and assets and their own estate and what they want to do to help the world or to help their family or their children or grandchildren or siblings or whomever. Like, it's such a beautiful side of law. It is such a loving side of law. And it's so interesting how we both have found ways to bring love into the work that we do, to be able to support the system from inside, rather than like tear the whole thing down and try to destroy the whole profession, which, Julie, we were talking about previously. There are times when we need the sort of saltier side of lawyers, as I like to say. If someone's in an adversarial situation or in a courtroom, or you need to stand up for someone's rights, we need that salty lawyer to do that, right?
Yeah.
But we were talking about the fact that we don't have to be those salty lawyers in the work that we do, because the environments we're creating are those that need to have a more supportive environment of love. And
Yeah.
it's nice to know that we can do that, even though we weren't trained in that. And the profession as a whole doesn't declare love to be its value. We can do that in our own practices. And that, I think, is a way to start shifting and changing and raising the vibration of the profession.
I love that. And I love how that is very in alignment with kind of what you teach others. It's about setting up boundaries. Now, being
Mhm.
spiritual doesn't mean you don't have boundaries. And
Absolutely.
although we're not being salty lawyers and fighting each other in court, right? But there are certain things that we do fight for and we do represent in our individual values and what we see as important to embrace, to show up in our world, right? Because once you set those boundaries, what you allow in and what you do not allow in, that's your entire reality, right? We all
That's
know
right.
that reality is not necessarily objective. We, in a sense, create our own reality. And a very fundamental way to create, a very fundamental of shifting realities is to set up these ground rules. What do I allow in energetically and what do I not? So let's shift gears a little bit. I want our listeners to kind of receive a little bit of a transmission from us. And it's just through us kind of just building onto this because I can feel the energy. You know, we have already set up this field and it's not like we're going to start chanting or doing anything like that. But it's I want to continue to build up this energy. I want this energy to create something for our listeners in a form of an empowering transmission for those who want to perhaps show up fully in their light, to show up with more love in whatever they're doing professionally, whatever roles they're in as a mother, as a spouse, as a sister, whatever that may be.
Yes.
You know, so let's build on that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I talked about boundaries.
Right.
And I'm going to pass the mic on to you because you're kind of an expert in this. So setting up the boundaries energetically, right? That's how I see as building new realities around us.
Well, Julie, I love how you said that boundaries, when you have a spiritual awareness, you still do need to have boundaries. And the thing is that boundaries can be healthy boundaries, not necessarily negative or blocking. Now, sometimes you may need to block energy to honor yourself. And I think one thing that people don't realize about law in particular is that when you are, or in yourself in your own work that you do, when you have boundaries, it allows for freedom. When you have boundaries in place, it actually allows you to relax, to show up more authentically, to not feel you have to be guarded, because you know you've created a strong, clear structural boundary around you. And clarity always invites peace. Clarity always invites higher vibration because people are on the same page. People are in agreement about things. You've created clarity around how you spend your time, your energy, or your money that allows someone else to be very clear about that so they're not infringing on that. Because when people, as you know, when people have disputes or frustrations in their life, it's often because other people don't know where your boundaries are. It's not that they're necessarily even trying to impinge on you. It's just that they don't know what you are willing to receive and what you're not willing to receive. So they just move ahead. And the next thing you know, they're really close up to you because you didn't assert a beautiful, loving boundary in place. So I think in anything that we do in any of our professions and anything we do in our personal lives, being really clear about what it is that feels good to us and what doesn't feel good, what we receive, what we don't want to receive, that just creates clarity. And then clarity helps to change and shift the vibration as well. So I'm all about the clarity, all about the boundaries, and doing it with love. It doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be mean. It doesn't have to be nasty. You can just be loving about it because you're honoring each other when you have clear boundaries.
I love that. Clarity. Clarity is awareness.
Mhm.
As we know, spirituality really starts with awareness of the self. And
Yes,
whether,
exactly.
right, whether we're talking about a spiritual practice or a professional practice, we need to be clear. We need to
Yes,
be clear as to what we're willing to do and what we're not willing to do.
exactly.
So this is how I created a new type of legal practice. It's because I've gotten really clear about what I'm not willing to do anymore in my
Right.
profession.
Totally.
Yeah, yes. And also the cutting of the separation, that there is no separation between how I operate as a mom, how I operate in my spiritual practice, or how I operate as a lawyer. That is the
Yes, you're
unification.
consistent.
Right. That is the unity that is what we're looking for a lot of times in our spiritual practices. It's when we have that unification of not seeing ourselves as separate in different
Yes.
roles, then we are centered in this pillar of light
Mm,
that we truly
I
are.
feel that. And there's the transmission.
And there's
I
the
just felt that, Julie. That
transmission.
was beautiful.
Thank you.
Woo.
Yeah, that's not from me.
Woo.
That
I
was from
love that.
source.
Mm. Well, and the another piece of goodness behind what you're saying is that in order to have boundaries, we have to have clarity. Because otherwise you don't
Absolutely.
know where to set the boundary. So when you're clear about where your boundaries are, more light can come in.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Because there's not this
because
murky grayness.
exactly, right? The light has this
The light has
pillar
a
to
path.
come into,
Yeah, exactly.
and kind of also expanding, if you're somewhere, say a job or something, and there are certain things that you clearly say no to,
Mm-hmm.
and you really cannot keep doing it because to you it feels too out of alignment with your vibration. Okay.
Yes.
And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go out and create something new with what you align
Beautiful.
with, right? And then whatever you create will then drop those things that you no longer align with. Because all of these things that trigger you in what you do, it's a sign. It's a sign from your soul talking to your human self saying, hey, this is why you're triggered by it. It's because
Yes.
here's a golden opportunity for you to shift things and create a new reality with the life experience that you've already garnered.
Exactly. And it does take some courage sometimes, and it does take a little bit of discomfort because you haven't ever done that before. But I think what's beautiful is you can look at the example of Julie and look at the courage it takes to shift, but know that it can be done. You just know that it can be done. Because you have the ability to do small things, small shifts, small things, small infusions of love into tasks that you do every day in your work, small infusions of love into the way that you show up for someone else. Like sometimes it can feel overwhelming if you feel you're in a big structure or big office, big hospital, big world, big family, big anything. And it can feel like it's hard to know if you're really making a difference or know if what your small shift is really impacting the whole. And we know from spiritual place that anytime we shift in the way that we show up, other things shift too. So even though it might feel scary or it might feel overwhelming, we just want to remind ourselves that any small step we take towards a higher frequency or a bigger vibration of love, it will have a positive impact on everything around us. Even if sometimes we can't see it, it's still happening.
Oh yeah. Your universe always watching.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if nobody else is paying attention. The universe is always watching. So
yes, exactly.
We have a couple of minutes left. I say I'm in that phase of breaking out and doing something that's so different. And I'm scared. Can you give me some courage, Lisa? Can you give me a courage activation?
Well, first of all, I if I can be an example, I have done it. So, and you are doing it. You're already doing it. And I write about courage in my book. And one of the things I talk about is that courage, all courage is really, and I'm not the only one who shares this opinion, obviously, but is really just looking at the fear, feeling afraid of what you're doing, feeling the discomfort of whatever it is that feels new and different. And you just do it. And you recognize and honor it and find a way. I like to say to go around it. I don't mean spiritually bypass it. I just mean acknowledge it's there. And if there's like a boulder in the road ahead of you where you're walking, you find a way to walk around the boulder. You don't have to let the whole boulder stop your path. You're like, oh, there's a big boulder. I have to turn around. I can't go any further. That's not true. You can just walk around the boulder, right? So it can feel big and scary and looming ahead of you, but there are ways that you can take your baby steps forward to move in the direction you want to go and let that fear and discomfort still coexist. It doesn't have to be overcome or destroyed or you don't have to get rid of the fear. It's that you just have to let the fear be and honor the fear and then walk around the boulder of the fear and just keep going. It's we live in such a world that's so binary and wants everything to be this or that, as opposed to the both and. We can feel afraid and we can do it. And just understand that fear is just trying to protect us. That's all it is. So that helped me a lot. And I'm sure you've already been doing this, because anyone who is taking significant change forward is probably feeling fear and taking the steps anyway. So I think that's all I would offer is knowing that you will feel a little discomfort and it's okay to keep going anyway.
I love that. So let fear be fuel for your fire.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Thank you
said.
So
Way
much.
More succinctly than I said it, for sure.
I'm just summing it up. Okay, so Lisa, thank you so much for being here on Shine today. I'm going to provide our listeners all the deets on how to work with you. And I'm just going to close our show for today. But there will be something, if our listeners are interested, I will have a recording added to the end for that. Thank you so much, sister.
Thank you for having me, Julie. This was beautiful, and it was so nice to be with you in our legal sisterhood and our spiritual sisterhood.
Yes, we are the legal mystics.